on this auspicious occasion of 36th Dr. K.S. Krishnan Memorial Lecture held in remembrance of Dr. K.S. Krishnan, the founder director of CSIR India. To grace this event, we have amongst us distinguished guests. We extend a hearty welcome to our esteemed chief guest, Professor T. Ramasamy, former TST Secretary and Chairman, K.S. Krishnan Memorial Trust. We welcome you, sir. We also welcome our former directors and retired scientists who have gathered here to grace this occasion. I also extend a warm welcome to all our revered scientists, dear teachers, and of course, our dear students and our researchers. I also welcome our dear guests who all have gathered together with us on the online mode. We are also gathered today to acknowledge the most talented pool of students who performed excellently in the quiz competition organized on 13th May and the research scholars who actively participated in the inauguration of Krishnan Memorial Scholars Gallery. As quoted by Most Honorable Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, what is remarkable about Krishnan is not that he is a great scientist, but something much more. He is a perfect citizen, a whole man with an integrated personality. Truly, Dr. Kalyamanukam Srinivasa Krishnan was a person with high accolades and honor. Dr. K.S. Krishnan won his scientific spurs through his major contributions to scientific community. He was the co-discoverer with his guide, Dr. C.V. Raman, for the famous Raman effect. Another was the invention of an ingenious experimental technique to establish correlations between the magnetic properties of crystals and their internal architecture. Another was the mapping of the energy distribution of electrons in graphite crystals. I must hasten to add that the present flood of synthesis, from dyes and drugs, paints and plastics, to fuels and fabrics, is the outcome of the deeper knowledge of the solid state of matter acquired through these and allied techniques. He was an outstanding physicist of international repute who made pioneering contributions in a number of fields of physics. He played an important role in the development of science and technology in India. He was deeply associated with the previous scientific and educational organizations in the country, like the Atomic Energy Commission, the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and University Grant Commission. Besides his research work and journal reading, he also took active interest in sports. He mastered the art of explaining science in a clear and captivating fashion to a layman. Today, we are indeed honored to acknowledge his benevolent contributions and mark this day in his remembrance. Now, to commence today's event, I request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly come up on the dais. On the dais, we have our honorable chief guest, Professor T. Ramasamy, Director NPL, Professor Venugopal Chanta, the convener of the event, Dr. Ritu Srivastav, Senior Principal Scientist, and Dr. S.N. Sharma, Senior Principal Scientist, NPL. I welcome you all in the dais. Can we have a huge round of applause for our esteemed dignitaries? Today, we are privileged to have an inspiring personality amongst us as our chief guest, Professor T. Ramasamy. I humbly request our Director NPL to present a token of delight and respect to our chief guest for being a significant part of this abiding occasion. Can I have a huge round of applause? Thank you, sir. Sir, we are indeed honored by your kind gesture of consenting to be the chief guest. Thank you, sir. As we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way. I request our dignitaries on dais to come forward for the lightening of the lamp. Lightning of the lamp is a symbolism to invoke the Almighty to dispel the darkness and drive us into the light by kindling the lamp of knowledge and wisdom. I also request the dignitaries to shower flowers as a reverence to Dr. K.S. Krishnan. I thank the dignitaries on the dais. I now request our convener of the event, Dr. Ritu Srivastava, Senior Principal Scientist, to kindly come up and accord a ceremonial welcome to our venerated guest and lovely gathering.
Greetings to one and all. It is a moment of extreme pleasure to welcome the guests present here to attend this event. On behalf of the organizing committee of Dr. K. Krishnan Memorial Lecture, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Professor T. Ramaswamy, a former DSC Secretary and Chairman of the K. S. Krishnan Memorial Trust. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and for becoming the chief guest of this event. I would like to welcome our former directors, Dr. Kishan Lal sir, Professor Vikram Kumar sir, and other retired scientists to attend this event. I convey my regards to Director CSR NPL, Professor Venukumar Achanta, for his encouragement and motivation to organize this event. I welcome all the guests who joined this event online. There are two more events associated with this: inauguration of the K.S. Krishnan Memorial Scholar Gallery and essay quiz competition for school college students. In this essay quiz competition, 10 schools have participated, and for the K.S. Krishnan Memorial Scholar Gallery, our research scholars have actively contributed. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all the school children, their teachers, and the research scholar of CSR and peer. I thank them for their presence and participation in this event. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who sincerely committed in making this event a success. This event would have been impossible without the support of each and everyone present here. I welcome you all for this event.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I humbly request our Director CSI NPL, Professor Venu Gopal Achanta, to kindly come up and enlighten the gathering with his golden words and also introduce our honorable chief guest.
Dr. Ramaswamy, Dr. Kishan Lal, Dr. Vikram Kumar, all my colleagues here, and on the dais and in the auditorium. So I'm happy to see young students as well as senior members whom we look up to on this occasion. Right? So this is very important thing, right? I mean, important day for us at NPL because Krishnan was our founder. And just to let you know why these people need to be remembered, and history should not be forgotten. We have to learn our lessons from the history. In addition to that, like if you look at the auditorium, look at the building which we walked through, right? This is all built under the guidance or under the oversight of these people, the quality, right? This all is reflected. The character of the person who was the founder, director of this place is reflected in this each and every brick we say. Right? That way, like I mean, it's our minimum responsibility as a member of NPL family to set a path to remember these people, so that like the practices, the good practices, the standard which they have set for the institute is remembered and we inculcate it in every day of our life here. So otherwise, I don't know who we are. Right. So from history perspective, like this is very important for us to have this, I mean, remembering our founder, right? And to keep the legacy afloat. Right? So there is no other person who is as eminent and as appropriate for today's talk than Dr. Ramaswamy. I mean, he has many hats. Though when we talk to him, it's always like his first preference is always like the CLRI, right? And then comes the CSIR, then comes DST, and he has so many leadership roles he has donned. So it's I mean. There's no need for many of us to I mean, it's not that we don't know about him or something needs to be told about him. So we are really honored that he has kindly agreed to grace this occasion and talk about Dr. Krishnan today. So there is a lot to learn from his talk, and I really look forward to his talk. And without much more of your time, so I would like to thank you all for being here, and on behalf of all of us, thank Dr. Ramaswamy for being here. Thank you.
As truly marked by our director, sir, that today is an important day because this day is actually going to stand in the annals of history someday. So I'm profusely elated to take this opportunity to call on our chief guest of the day for the lecture. Sir, you hardly need any introduction. You are a fountainhead of illuminating ideas and have distinguished work in numerous capacities. We have been eagerly waiting to hear from you, sir. I invite you to the dais. I request our dignitaries to kindly proceed towards the front row.
Link. Anyway, no problem. The esteemed director of CSR NPL and my family members, Dr. Ritu Sasthav and Sri Sharma ji, and my dear friends, Dr. Krishnalal and Dr. Kumar and Dr. Prashad. Let me simply say my family members, brothers, sisters, children, grandchildren. Very good morning, good evening to all of you, good afternoon to all of you. It's being mentioned repeatedly that I was graceful in accepting to deliver his K.S. Krishnan Memorial Lecture on his death anniversary. I'm going to share with you a detail that this is like my pilgrimage, paying homage to somebody who defined your life experience is a duty. Therefore, for me, this K.S. Krishnan lecture is not another one of those lectures that I participate to give. In life, it's a journey. We meet people, we come across situations. Some people end up making a big difference to you. Some occasions, really influence your life. As I walked into this auditorium, I remember that I came here to receive my Bhatnagar Prize, 1993. I was sitting in the same seat, probably but modified as my friend Prashad is sitting. And it turned out that, I never married, so I came alone. My friend Raghavendra Gadakar, who also won the Bhatnagar Prize that year, was sitting by my side. Because biology came before chemistry, B and C. So he said, "You not brought your family." I said, "You guys have brought a few people. Turn around, this entire NPL is my family. All of them are my family." Therefore, that experience I will never forget, because this is an auditorium where the first recognition happened. But that is not the purpose of this talk today. Purpose of this talk is to share with you an experience of a man, of a schoolboy, when I was a schoolboy, encounter with K.S. Krishna. And that encounter left a deep impression upon me, and he truly became an inspirational model. When I say inspirational model, you must remember the difference between icons and inspirational models. Role models. Icons can do a lot of fantastic things and inspire people, but they can also do something wrong. But role models cannot do anything wrong. Role models have to be perfect all the time. And therefore, I'm going to share with you my reading of the experience with K.S. Krishna and how it impacted my own research in the later part of my life. And therefore, I titled it specifically Dr. K.S. Krishna as an inspirational role model, and a role model that is permanent in life. It is not only during his lifetime and like beyond. And that's the idea of this talk. Okay. Any inspirational role model, what are we expecting from them? Role models truly are examples for young people. And not just example for the sake of doing what is important, but for emulation, to practice what they practiced. Therefore, the young emulation on how to live with integrity, optimism, hope, determination, and above all, commitment to the cause, larger cause of the community. And that is really what a role model is expected to do. They are supposed to inspire, set and lead by clear values, demonstrate commitment to the community, remain selfless and acceptable to others, and overcome obstacles. In my opinion, Dr. K.S. Krishnan played an inspirational role model for many scientists of my generation. Not just me, many scientists of my generation. I was walking through this gallery. Therefore, some of what is written here is known to all. He was born on December 4th. On that is known to you. Let me congratulate the organizers of this gathering and the people who participated in this process. It is by remembering K.S. Krishnan, we are not doing him a favor. We are doing ourselves a favor by refurbishing ourselves with the knowledge of a person who set role models for this organization and role models for the entire science community of the country. Therefore, it is important to remember that K.S. Krishnan came from a small beginning, and it turns out that today is his death anniversary. It was 14th June 1961, he passed away. For those of you who are very young, you may not know there are two people in the whole world that I know had the misfortune of hearing their own death, messages of death when they were still alive. One was Alfred Nobel. When Alfred Nobel, somebody said he died and then wrote all kind of things, and he realized, this is what the people want to say when I actually died. We sent the Nobel Prize for that process. But the other person, all your founder director, There was a news item in the All India Radio that K.S. Krishnan had died when he was alive. And it turned out the school where he had studied left, became a holiday. Okay, that's how I know this. Now, then they realized there's not K.S. Krishnan, but R.S. Krishnan who passed away, who was a lawyer. It so happened in those days, K.S. Krishnan was so famous, any Christian dead becomes K.S. Krishnan. But K.S. Krishnan actually died few days later on 14th of June 1961. So we are observing his memorial system today. And I would like to mention to you, he studied up to class 8 in Madrap, then the Hindu High School, Siviliputtur, and he grew up in very small town with very limited infrastructure. And even as a school student, he did experiments himself. Okay? And he has written something very fine about what teacher can do in that school, in this process. And he built his own equipment for the measurement of density of solids as a school student. And he studied the American College, Madurai, Madras Christian College, Chennai, and then joined the group of C.V. Raman and participated in this Nobel Prize winning work. As you know, as was mentioned to you earlier, integrated complete human being. That's what he's come to do. It doesn't matter who says it, but I think that's a description that very few of us can actually deserve to get told. And I believe he was able to inspire. At least I'm going to share with you that I got inspired by him. He set clear values. You see, somebody told you that I was Secretary, Department of Science and Technology. But Department of Science and Technology did more for science and less for technology. So Secretary also does not do much technology. So demonstrate commitment to community, remain selfless and acceptable to others and overcome obstacles. And I will annotate this in this talk that you are selfless in a certain ways. And all these and more have been evidence from life, and you know that. If you look at the persona of Dr. K.S. Krishnan as the inspirational model, you might remember that Raman, I don't know whether some of you know, that Raman felt that as a scientist he will not make enough money. So after his MA class, he went and passed civil service exam and became assistant accountant general. He was worked as an assistant general for 9 years, and he made a good money, good salary. And he used to buy land, sell, and the capital gain to use for research. And he went to the director of IACS and said, "You give me a place to work, I will no prizes in 5 years." And indeed, it was so. He assigned this work of observing this Raman effect to Ramanathan first, but they didn't progress very much. Then he gave to K.S. Krishnan, and K.S. Krishnan, of course, made this important, remarkable discovery on the 27th of February 1928. It was made public on 28th, as was pointed out in the gallery. And regardless of what he said, in his own words, K.S. Krishnan's own words, he did not describe himself as a co-discoverer of Raman effect. Okay? He described himself as somebody who had the fortune of participating in the discovery of Raman effect. That was K.S. Krishnan's own words. And C.V. Raman, in his Nobel Prize work, when his Nobel lecture, he mentioned if it is only for that effect, he had to share this. But if it is for the 7 years of work done, that it has to be for the whole work. And therefore, I think we should remember that these are all the great men, and they don't speak about anything which is not appropriate. And some controversy erupted as to whether K.S. Krishnan should have been credited as a co-discoverer, and K.S. Krishnan denied any credit for himself, a symbol of modesty. Okay? And Ramaseshan has chronicled the discovery process through the diary of K.S. Krishnan, who stoutly affirmed that the work of Raman behind him. He was very fortunate to be a participant in the discovery. But neither Ramaseshan nor Subramanian Chandrasekhar believed that was correct, and they believed that was because K.S. Krishnan really was seeking inner dharma in his research, and he did not worry about critics. And that is the words of inner dharma, is the words of S. Chandrasekhar in his system. All this is captured. I've given you this article. You can capture this process. That tells you something about K.S. Krishnan's persona, not about the prize. You're not the one who chased the prize, but the one who did the work. For the younger people of you, I would like to mention to you at the time when I got a Patna Prize, that All India Radio interviewed me in Chennai. They asked me whether this work, whether the prize is for the work or work is for the prize. He asked me a question on real time. I said, as a scientist, I follow life science as my way of life, whether or not this is system. Fundamentally, there are many people in the world who seem to think the prize and recognition is more important than the work itself. And here is a man who followed with the work for its own beauty and knowledge. And we also know about Raman effect. I don't know whether you know, when Raman went to receive Nobel Prize, they gave him alcohol. He refused to drink. I said, Are, I got no prize for doing the Raman effect on alcohol. These people are trying to do the alcohol effect on Raman. Therefore, there is always some effect or the other. I'm going to talk about the Christian effect on Ramaswamy, but not in the same league as other. I was studying in class 7 for a few months. I studied in 21 schools. So the number of schools is, I have a Guinness Book of Records. But this particular time I studied 3 months in that school where K.S. Krishnan had studied. And there was a teacher who asked, what will you want to become? And I said, I want to be a scientist. And then he took me to a room where K.S. Krishnan's photograph was on display and said that this man was sort of this place, he's a great scientist, he did this, all blah, blah, blah. And then he said 3 principles. Well, that's the day on which the scientist in Ramaswamy was born. He said, truth at any cost, perseverance, uncompromising attitude to quality and truth. These are necessary. These 3 lessons were given to me in front of the photograph of K.S. Krishnan. And that's how my science values were set on that day. And today, if I call him a role model, I saw in him those 3 qualities. And that's, I was plus 7. Few years later, maybe a year later, I had an opportunity to listen to K.S. Krishnan's conversation with my own father at my own home, my mother's home, ancestral home. He was some sense related to my mother. That's a different matter. Now, my father asked K.S. Krishnan at that time, Are, you're a scientist. What did he choose to become the director of a national lab? This is an administrative post. He said, Vimalai, I'm not an administrator, I'm a tourist guide. Anybody who comes to Delhi, Pandit will like them to come and see NPL. Sometimes he himself will come in. So NPL was really a tourist destination in Delhi. I have to take them along. Then my father asked him another question. Is it true that Raman did not give you enough credit for the work that you did? That I let state publicly. He got furious. I mean, Krishnan got furious. So don't talk like that about the others. This is not the culture of this process. Raman, it was Raman's work, and no, he did not share it with anybody. And there is no way that anybody should entertain such discussions. Okay? And I heard this myself personally at this process. And he said that Pandit Nehru went to his house 3 times personally to persuade him to become the director of ANP. And that is the stature of this office, director of NPL. When Gopal, you have a great job. Because the director of NPL is a big responsibility and to some extent liability. Because the legacy is so great. I have seen letters written by Indira Gandhi to K.S. Krishnan. Says that, dear uncle, you know daddy, so is coming home for dinner. And he wants you and the dinner, please excuse me for short notice, Indra. So he had such a warm relationship with people. But please understand, all that relationship built political will for Indian science itself. It is not just for India. And it is believed that people like Baba used to depend on Krishnan to get this connectivity. Therefore, what is important is in that action of his, the selfless commitment to the cause of science was displayed in everything that he did. Of course, when I saw, I was an impressionable age. I was 10, 11. I did become a scientist, and I grew up in the setting of CSIR lab. I went to CSIR lab as a student, BTech student. I was age of 16 when I went to CSIR laboratory. Therefore, I grew up in the womb of CSIR in the system, and K.S. Krishnan had set the role for becoming a scientist in the system. Now, some inspirational connections. K.S. Krishnan himself was inspired by the persona of Professor C.V. Raman, became the participant in his own words in the remarkable discovery of the Raman effect, impacted and influenced by the one-pointed pursuit of the perseverance of his master and mentor. And he describes it in his diary with a kind of enthusiasm which Professor Raman approached his observation that they had stumbled upon on this process. Therefore, there's some, you must read the diary to find out what kind of a persona this man brought. Of course, in my case, as I said earlier, I was inspired by the persona of K.S. Krishnan in the early phase of my life and traveled along his path, including the service of CSIR. I was also influenced by Raman's own work on the harmonics on Indian drums published in the year 1920. And K.S. Krishnan, as you know, was renowned for his work on Raman effect. Life and work of K.S. Krishnan stand out by the way of pursuit of truth, virtues, and ethos of cultural integration and advancement of science and technology in shaping the future of this country. I would like to play, if possible, how do I do this?
There is a close analogy between the virtues involved in cultural integration and those needed for the cultivation and advancement of the pure sciences. And similarly, between those involved in political integration and in technology. In this context, it may be significant that in India, we took to the pure sciences much more readily than to the applied sciences. With our great cultural and academic traditions and the new political awakening, one may confidently look forward to a bright scientific and technical.
Drawing inspiration from Dr. K.S. Krishnan on this question of cultural integration, I plan to engage in a conversation today on the art and science of drums. It is in tribute to the cultural integration of people engaged in art and science, as well as two widely differing knowledge domains. And that's the spirit of this conversation. Let me say, dedicated to the immortal soul and the ever-living spirit of K.S. Krishnan, because it is a body which disappears. The spirit never dies. Life is immortal in that sense. The spirit life, the soul is immortal. And the soul of K.S. Krishnan, I believe it is still vibrating in the corridors of India. And that will happen. I am going to talk to you about art and science and drum in tribute to the fusion of knowledge for its own beauty. On this occasion, I like to remember and recall and give the credit that has been inspired by the legendary mastery of Mridangam artist, Dr. Umayyadurai Sivaraman. He is just 87 years young. and you will find out that the 27-year-old people cannot match his energy today. And this Sivaraman walked into my office in the Leather Institute one day, and he said that he wants some questions to be answered by scientists. And my father used to describe me as out in the sea, because I have no interest in music. But he got me into this process, and I'd like to present to you a cultural fusion that happened between the Mridangam artists and the scientists in this process. But when you look at this process, it also brought together an artisan who makes Mridangam as a family livelihood profession. And his child may not even like to do it later. If livelihood crafts of this kind of musical instruments don't get sustained by the next generation, that art will go. Therefore, there's a necessity to bring the world of science and technology and try and see whether we can actually bring a fusion of cultures between the technical persons who are going to our kind of a process in science. So I'm going to share with you today an experience of fusing this Georgeson Mridangam maker and Kalayaj, who is a technician of CLR. There is a scientist group. I call myself still a scientist, of course, and then the scientific community. And this is a cultural integration that happened in this world. Johnson's father made the music, the Mridangam for C.V. Raman. Okay. And it turned out Johnson made the Mridangam for our requirements. And it turned out in the year 2019, based on the work that we had done, we brought out a book on musical excellence of Mridangam. It was published by Academic Foundation, and the book was released by the Vice President of India and has a message from the Prime Minister of this country. And to me, it's an outcome of a cultural integration of two streams of artists and scientists on one plane, artisans and technicians on the other. And there's a purpose to this work is the livelihood craft should become a livelihood craft. Essentially, an activity from which people can make a living. And that's the purpose of this work. So people have done science of music of Mridangam, where you've done the science for making Mridangam and how to begin this process. There are percussion instruments and the tonal characteristics. There are as many as 14,650 percussion instruments in the world, and about 400 plus of them are categorized as drums. Helmholtz and Ron Raleigh, in their iconic work, provided scientific evidence and scientific methods of looking at music, Western music. When they did that, they said that the string instruments and wind instruments will provide harmonics in the music because the vibrating acoustic medium is one dimensional. And if you had a percussion instrument, the acoustic surface is two-dimensional surface, and therefore they won't show harmonics. They made a postulate that the acoustic properties of musical instruments, and this postulate said that the drums won't be harmonic. It turned out, when they postulated, they lack harmonic because two-dimensionality of vibrating medium. You see, in science, there are two types of people. In our present-day children are always taught to answer questions. In examination, you have to answer a question, and if the question is framed in such a manner that the paper correcting also will know the answer, and if you get the same answer, you get a full mark. If you get a different answer, you won't get a full mark. But good scientists don't answer questions. Questions they answer themselves. And it turned out, C.V. Raman asked a very fundamental question. He said, if you are saying percussion instruments don't show harmonic, he came back and said, this postulate questioned it and showed that Indian drums had musicality and they show harmonics. So in 1920, even before he became very famous in observation, so many things, He published series of papers on musical instruments of India. I believe somebody, I won't name the person, that C.V. Raman is trying to fiddle his way to the Nobel Prize. Then he realized that if he worked on sound, he may not be very more delighted. That also is another comment that's being made. But basic science takes the root in questioning answers, and those were the methods of Raman and Krishna. So when you talk about the inspiration is not answering questions. The inspiration is asking the right questions and the answer is no. And that's what they did. C.V. Raman, he looked at this acoustics of Mridangam and he showed the central black packet drum is produced harmonic overtones, and he tried to put sand and vibrate and see how the sand moves, and was able to show that by showing particles of the membrane, and he was able to show the 9 vibrational modes, they are put 5 harmonics are produced. This was C.V. Raman's paper in Nature 1920. Okay, single author. He was just out of college then. Now, further work on harmonics, he showed that Mridanga Southern percussion is harmonic. He published a paper in 1920. His experimental demonstration, he premised that Indian drums are musical and Western drums he wrote as noise producers. Okay. Ramakrishna and Siddhartha developed theoretical basis for the observed harmonics of Mridanga. These are the papers that went through. You can recognize from 1920 onwards this harmonics and why this happens, all that will be discussed in scientific terms. And it turned out the post-Raman era, we said, how do we look at them? So Ramakrishna and Sombi, he proposed a theory and said the reason as to why the Mridangam and Tabla shows harmonics is they have a composite membrane, because in the 3 layers of parchments are upon each other, and that predicts the according to the Raman spectrum. Theoreticians are wonderful people. They will give theory for what is observed very well. And that's what happened in that case. What Raman observed, they gave a theory. But turns out, they said why this black patch and all that. The Siddhartha came ahead and then the processing found out the ratio is 1.07234, which is not a harmonic with 1234. 1.07234. Okay, this was what the thing it had. Now, they said this ortho, the harmonic is missing fundamental, and they say it's attributable to the canonical loading. The way the black patch is applied, it becomes 0.7. And they said, for the sake of proving a theory, I don't have to go back and alter the method of loading. This is the conclusions they had. So they made a pragmatic conclusion. There's no merit in altering the method of loading just because you want to see the fundamental. One. This is the development that happened in the observing the fundamental processes. So, earlier work was truly on the science of the music of Mridangam and Indian instruments. And we realized Mridangam even today, Mridangam, Tabla, all the scientific instruments, even today they understand the activity. And the science for making Mridangam really requires integration of many cultures. Not only science, not only art, but even the spirit of hooking up and so on. So let us see, C.V. Raman demonstrated our system, and the uniqueness of drums was a point of acclaim. And he said very nicely, that's all because of ancient Hindu civilization. That is his Ashosh Mukherjee lecture. And Mridangam is so beautiful, and other Western drums are nice producers because of our civilizational processes. This is from Raman himself. All the instruments of percussion known to European science are essentially non-musical and can only be tolerated in open air music or the large orchestra. The little noise, more or less, makes no difference. These are C.V. Raman. Okay. Now I am going to try and build up this process. Fundamentally, Raman was intuitive and perhaps was prepared culturally to recognize these harmonics of musical drum, when the scientific knowledge known then ruled out harmonics. Facts disprove generalization. Helmholtz and Rod Raleigh generalized, and Raman produced a facts to disprove the generalization. It happened. But Raman went ahead and made another generalization that Western drums are noise producers. Okay? Now, we must remember that music is like a language. Okay? And culturally, we are conditioned the cognitive neuroscience. If I don't understand Hindi and you speak to me Hindi, it's a noise. And if you don't understand Tamil and I speak Tamil, it's a noise. Therefore, there's a certain cognitive neuroscience associated with understanding of music as well, which cannot be ignored. So, cognitive neuroscience and music is currently attracting attention. Brain centers involved in language and music seem interconnected. It turned out that you play 1 hour of mridanga, you send the same energy as that you would spend by driving 1 hour running. The energy levels utilizations are the same. When you walk, run, you left, right, left, right. That's a frequency. When you play drums, left, right, road centers operate. Therefore, the certain cognitive neuroscience of the music which is important. And it turned on Raman's assertion that Indian drums are musical, Western drums cannot be seen from the cultural context of our Indian systems as well. So, on account of the cognitive process, unfamiliar language may seem like a noise to a listener. Therefore, danger of missing out tonal beauty of some drums of different cultural contexts do remain. So, what we did to go back and do this process in a different way. So, we did look at this cultural integration aspects of this. So, when you're looking at the various aspects of knowledge towards musical extents of Mridangam, we realized that we have to remember this mathematics, connections to number theory, the periodicity. It turns out, in later vein, when I came back from UK to join Central Institute, my teachers were very worried that I became one-dimensional. So they decided to make me drive to a musical concert. I was a driver, my teachers were visiting. I went there. At the end of it, when we came out, one of the teachers asked, how did you enjoy the music? And whenever I went to these concerts, I used to take a whiff of papers. When I came back, I gave them a periodicity of talas. I gave them the equation. This is what I observed, the periodicity of this is the talas. They said they gave up on me. But there was a periodicity which is related to these mathematical functions. Sound and harmonics. Chemistry, fingerprinting of the lattice parameters of the minerals used for black patch. Material science, wood and parchment sources. Life sciences, the source of skins and hides. Engineering for standardization of instrument. Earth sciences, they believe, music people believe that the Ganges sand is more valuable than the Kaveri sand, or this river is more important than that, because we have to make everything holy. So they believe that sand well source is important. De-skilling and preservation of art of making. That's a social science. We have to de-skill the making of the products. Cognitive neuroscience, and I believe today drumming can be used as a therapeutic application for recovering neuroplasticity of stroke affected people. And that's what it offers. Cultural integration of knowledge for understanding knowledge. I will tell you with all the research, I don't understand what's not. Because we have instruments to measure acoustics. Northern is beyond. Therefore, there is some limits. And one of my friends today asked me in NPR, what is it that he can do? He can understand a lot of microwave and all that. I said, I want him to understand Northern music, because something I don't understand. Now, Mridangam is an instrument, is a resonating bookshelf, and the cow-based parchments, and there is an annular space, and goat, this is a goat skin, and this is a black pad which is applied as a playing area, and this is a 3-layer assembly. And the iron oxide is a material which is present here. There's some inorganic chemistry people like me to make this with. And cooked rice is used to attach this black patch to the membrane. And between this annular space, they add some filling materials, reed materials for filling this annular space. We think you're a great scientist, you discovered something. Mridangam has been known for so many years. And the people who built this instrument, who built the device, did not go to any Cambridge or Oxford or NPR. But they built something which is unique, and I'll show you the benefits of this intuitive knowledge, which is not system driven, but it produces some value. Go open, there are 3 layers. There's a cow base. This is an angular ring. In between, you have this goat skin, and that's where you put the black patch. And you have reeds which are interposed between them, and the goat buffalo, and then buffalo is material is used for tying up the process, and a wooden shell. This is the exploded view of Mridangam. And it is all natural materials, and they use jackfruit. And I came back and said, can we try some other wood? But the best result we get in Java. So the research proved that the tradition has very strongly rooted. They have done many experiments and finally come up with that result. Now, the science for interesting challenge of musical instruments, raw material challenges, because there's a non-homogeneity, natural material, non-homogeneous. Therefore, wood, skin, sand, cooked rice, everything they need. So I come to NPL and talk about non-standards, because this is the non-natural material will recognize NPL, because you cannot standardize. Now, standardization defies standardization reproduction, limited to geography-based resource, because art forms are remaining localized. And renewability of resources pose renewability and pose capacity limitations. Now, so to convert this livelihood into a professional allocation from whom people can make a living, then you need to ask the question, making a Mridangam has to become a skill-based profession. Otherwise, the flight of skill to other renewable materials will go up. So science backing up would help saving a traditional art of Mridangam making. This is not just about Mridangam, you can replace Mridangam by any other livelihood craft. This including agriculture, frankly. So here, science for sustainability of Mridangam making, we need down. Science for transition from craft to a professional application. So you need science for both. So looking at this musical device, it's a geometrical asymmetry, 3 sizes, 23, 24 inches, non-standardization, artisan specialties, artist preferences, transportability. Because if you are depending on the length, you know you are a physics lab, you will know the sound velocity of sound, and if you have length at 22, 23, 24, the pitch will change. And depending upon the pitches you need, you have to carry 22, 23, and 24. That's a challenge that you have, and transportability. So, and if you take a black patch system and take it to Australia, Australia is the island country, it doesn't want this natural material to come in because of the bacteria. So they will put tin oxide, fumigate it, then this whole black patch will go. Then Mridangam becomes a piece of wood. So phytosanitary process is important. And now, is it a device or artistic? These are the questions that we have, and look at all these questions on ourselves. So material science aspects of natural products, wood, parchment, minerals, black patch, adhesives. And today, our research has shown that jackfruit is good. It is good for such and such a reason. And today we know what kind of parchment is necessary, what should be the thickness, what is that standardization. All the standardization issues that NPL would ask have been given today in this process. Minerals. And we have looked at the lattice parameters, X-ray product, diffraction product parameters, which will be the best of acoustics. What are the things required? Adhesives. Can we replace cooked rice with a synthetic so that this phytosanitation is not important? Can we replace this reed by other materials, filling materials? construction aspects of mridangam, strength properties of materials, and we said fabrication methodology. What kind of force is required? What kind of strength is necessary? What's the compressive strength is required? All that has been done. So, and then provide, can we devise an instrument which can expand itself to 22 or 23 and 24 depending upon your convenience? Can you make it assembled, reassembled the way you wish to have? And transport friendly, phytosanitary compliant. All this kind of research was done in the Central Leather Research Institute. Okay. And white parchments, the human skin and the animal skin have the same viscoelasticity. And therefore, there's a certain, if you replace that with synthetic, it comes in its own different viscoelastic phenomenon. And it gives you scope for resonance and tapping. And why goat? The buffalo goat offers the best strength unit thickness, lends itself for use in playing area. Cowhides offers damping and buffalo over tension adjustments and performs better when the buffalo skin is cured in a curd. Let me now tell you, remember many years ago we were doing Nimitli. In the Nimitli, this project was being done. I asked my colleagues in CLR, why can't we find the way of preserving the skin without salting and drying? Then somebody asked, how do you do that? I said, now I give you, when I was young, somebody told me a story. You have a grass, you have land, you have tiger. Okay? Now the tiger won't eat the grass, the land will. So find a tiger which will eat the land, but not the grass. So skin is the grass and land is the skin putrefying bacteria. Find a tiger, antagonistic bacteria, which will eat this skin putrefying bacteria. What we did, we put the skin in curd, can be preserved for months, years, but because lactobacillus destroy the skin putrefying bacteria. These fellows knew this many years ago. They're not immediately at that time. Therefore, let us all scientists be humble. Think that the traditional guys have arrived at certain things in their own ways, and we respect that knowledge. Traditional wisdom is something that we need to respect and not laugh at. Argument. All that we did, let me not go into the details of those. These are issues. Can I play this? Oops. How do I? Okay, can you go down? You see the difference? Go and come. Okay, good. Now, the tonal beauty of Mridanga, we can now got density parameters defined, hardness defined, sound radiation coefficients defined, porosity parameters defined, and jackfruit wood selects itself. We have all given the parameters. Now, it is NPL standards you can give. Goat as a playing area, cow for non-playing area, buffalo for matching properties, all that is defined. We have defined X-ray power diffraction technique to provide the fingerprinting of parameters of the black patch method that you require in terms of the concentrations and the structural parameters. And titration of the application of right amounts of materials, how much to apply. I give it the techniques. Adhesive, synthetic alternatives, potential benefits for CFC. Annual filling materials is the re-put effort. And annual filling materials have been found. If somebody can play this no Jiva without the annular material, can you play this? Yes. That one. Can you do that? Hook. Can you play this? Because I'm used to playing my own. Everybody is comfortable with their own instrument. If the instrument changes, you become your dependent. So, can you? Oh, no. No, Jiva, no Jiva. No, here. This. no jiva. No jiva. Okay, now play the jiva with jiva. This is without the flow. You see a difference? How did these people know that putting a broomstick, take one small stick broomstick, one party has a control symbol like that. Take that and to convert it into an half cylinder and insert it between the three angular space. This is what it produces. Therefore, this is a truly a celebration of traditions which are backed by empirical observations long periods of time, and we back it up with science with modernity. So in principle, wood selection, our method, sound radiation constant, density, hardness, optimal specifications, parchment, optimal thickness, tear properties, along with the tonal outcome. And since we don't have the same years of Raman, we used a fast Fourier transform for our survey. And mineral composition, particle sizes, X-ray diffraction. Methods for testing binding ability and optimal binding strength. Alternative methods for tonal beauty, and of course, use fast Fourier transform to replace our inability, match our inability to recognize EP to be the normal strength. I came back and asked, drums is not to be reduced into only a membrane-based system with a two-dimensional property. That's a gap column inside the drum. That's a unidimensional. Therefore, any drum has to be seen as a composite of one-dimensional and one two-dimensional acoustic surfaces. Therefore, what we did is to go back and question this question a little bit more. And drums were two vibrating media, air column and the membrane. And we decided that we will go back and do some experiments with other types of drums. And we took 6 drums plus mridangam of non-Indian origin, and we looked at we really mute one side, keep it erect, and play the bass stroke with air column as a tonal acoustic property, and then the membranes. So the studies are made, drums playing in playing position, rim strokes, and these are played, and the total number of drums played was 6 plus 1. These are the drums: buck, conga, djembe, jun, snare drum, and talking drum. 7 drums were chosen. We performed the same experiments, and these are the fast Fourier transforms. Okay. And these are the bass stroke. Bass stroke is one side is muted, and you go with 4 fingers or whatever you want to do, and use the air column as a vibrating medium. And then you play the rim stroke with the membrane as the acoustic medium. And we have been able to do that. I will not go into the details of those. You can see some of them that do show, snare drum, for example, do show harmonics. So to say that Western drums are, this is the bass stroke of conga. Air columns, 3, 5, 7. Bass stroke of Jinjin, rim strokes. Therefore, we need to be careful when we generalize many things in the process. Then you ask the question, why is it that Mridangam is so different? Apart the 460 plus drums, only 19 drums are pitched drums. Others are not pitched. They are not tuned to a frequency. So, and they believe in membranes. 6 of them are Indian, and there's 1 European drum which is a pitch device, and they are part of an orchestra and may not focus on rhythmic music. There is enough experimental evidence to support that air column in drums, they do elicit of harmonic acoustics. Uniqueness of the drums may be a composite vehicle membrane stack, type of loading of the minerals, and conceptual novelty, and finally, the method of tuning in the process is important. And I will show you how this is important. This is the bass stroke of Mridangam, and you can recognize you play this stroke, all the harmonics can be observed. And you realize that if you draw them, it will go to 0. Okay? But it turns out that the 1.07 that we studied later, it turns out when Chopper stroke is played, which is a membrane stroke, you see 2 to 16 fundamentals are observed from here. Chopper stroke, which is a membrane stroke. And when you play the bass stroke, it's in the center of the 4 hands, and you find 107 would have been what would have been observed, and the ratio of fundamental to the second harmonic is 0.535 and not 0.5. It turns out the signature feature of Mridanga is the ratio of the observed tonic note to the second harmonic, which is 0.535. And 1.07 is at what we call a re region. It has sa, re, re, ga, ga, ma, the re, re. That's the region in which this stroke comes, and the decay of the stroke plays closely packed. WC. You can see the WC. This is the observed. Can you do that? Okay, just do that. This is a chopper stroke. Can you play this? This is a segment. Yes. Okay, that's fine. Basically, what has happened, this is the bass stroke. You can see 1, 3, 5, 7. Odd harmonic. This is the bass rim stroke played with the middle finger on the southern side, which is the main second harmonic process. You can see 2, 3, 2, 4, 6 business. And you play with the index finger on the northern side, a rim stroke. 3. So this is the third harmonic, second harmonic. The way Mridangam players do is to keep tuning with index finger and little finger alternatively, and intuitively listen to the frequencies and ensure when they tune the ratio of the third harmonic, second harmonic exactly 1.5. So they're juxtaposing two independent harmonics, 1357 to 246, very cleverly by juxtaposing two signals by tuning process, and that is the beauty of Mridanga. And that's the beauty of tabla as well. And of course, I will not get into this process. What we have done is the titration, the ratio becomes 1.5 when it's tuned well. The ratio of the third to second harmonic. The ratio of the fundamental to the second harmonic is 0.535. And that's how the titrations are done, unloading is done. So possible alternate beauty, most Western drums are not pitch devices, these are pitch devices. And the ingenuity of music may well be the cultural integration of air column and membrane acoustics, and clever juxtaposing of odd and even theories, such that the ratio of the third to second harmonic is 1.5. When the rim strokes of Mridangam are played and they observed in such a manner, 1.07, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. This is what we play. Now we go back and look at this as a harmonic process. You can say the x to the power 12 become 1 to the 12. You will see it should be really 10595, 1.122. It turns out tabla, the bass stroke is 1.1, and Mridangam is 1.07. And their tabla is apparently more tuned to female voice, and Mridangam is for the male voice in terms of bass strokes. So, do we have to redesign Mridangam to make the instrument transport friendly? The answer is yes. And we also plan, we have adequate knowledge today to design a master class Mridangam that has not been seen before. Like violin, the 17th century violin not yet matched. These are the 23, 24, can we make 3-in-1 drum? That's the question in front of us, and we did that. And if we do that, we need to go back and ask, can we retain the Mridangam quality again? Mridangam signature features again? And it turns out 0.53. These are work in progress. And you can recognize the ratios of the process. And 3 1 and 3 dump. It is possible. A beginning is made today. So in summary, the 5-part outcomes of the initiative of science and technology in the harmony of music. We have standardization, calibration, construction of fabrication instrument, develop criteria by choice of materials. Such alternative materials for construction, fiber reinforced plastic, surgical glass, and rhythmic beauty of mechanism uses centimeters. That's what is. Phytosanitary compliant devices possibilities have opened up. And novel methods for play of enhancing musical outcomes is an ongoing, ever ongoing behavior. But if we see this, I use the word isthmus. What is in English called isthmus? If you have 2 large land masses connected by small land system, it's called isthmus. This is Northern America and Southern America. This is called isthmus. I think what we have done is an initiative for science and technology in harmony of music. And the arts and the musical form and science are 2 different art forms and science knowledge forms. How do we connect them? And this is the integration that we talked about today. And isthmus means a small area connecting 2 large masses. This is a small initiative to connect 2 large knowledge domains, namely music and science, demanding a cultural integration that Dr. K.S. Krishnan talked about in his own voice, which was actually 1956. K.S. Krishnan delivered the Sardar Patel Memorial Lecture. So the voice I played is from his 1956 lecture, New Era of Science. That's what he spoke about, and you can recognize the fusion of art and science, east and west in music is akin to a cultural integration spoken about by K.S. Krishnan. And a scientist usually measure, discover, standardize, and calculate. So wherever you go around in NPL, it talks about standardize, standards and standardize. Okay? Artists, they do not measure, but they feel. They don't measure using devices. They feel. They do not discover, but they create. They do not standardize, but differentiate. And they set standards. They set standards. They don't follow standards. Now, basically, fusion of art and science, at least in the music, offers a scope for merging the best of both worlds. So, discover to create, feel to measure, differentiate to standardize, set standards to calculate. That's an integration process. And then a cultural integration of all streams of knowledge from both art and science through fusion seems the best way forward. And that's what I try to communicate to you today in this process. Modern science, usable and useful knowledge as products of research enjoy a dominating presence. The inspirational value of K.S. Krishnan that you heard, I don't know if you watched very carefully. He used the word cultural integration, the virtues of cultural integration and advancement of basic science, and process of political integration and technology. He differentiated between the science and technology, useful science, useless science, if I'm going to use the word for better terminology. But useful and useful knowledge dominating presence, measurement, discovery, standardization, and calibration have become the knowledge language of the modern scientists across the world. K.S. Krishnan championed for scientific ideas with their own more than origins in this country. He spoke for creativity. He spoke for setting standards, differentiating from others in science too. So his inspiration was all built on cultural integration of science with creative artists in setting standards. May NPL could break new paths in science and set new standards for the world, an NPL to become the knowledge fountainhead, really the knowledge fountainhead in the domain in which the branch of physics that you are dominating. It is in a way important that we need all this today. That when my friend Dr. Krishnalal was the director of this institution, I was here and I asked him a question. When was the last time NPL won Bhatnagar Prize? And he said, K.P. This was 2001, something like that. I think it is important that NPL has to have everything. It is not one versus the other. It's not useful science versus the knowledge for its own beauty. It is knowledge for its own beauty as well as useful science. If required, this is not one does not displace another. Both are essential in this process. On this day, when we pay homage to a founder like A.S. Krishnan, let us ask ourselves the question, where are we strong individually? Where are we strong collectively? Collectively, we have solved a problem. There are a single individual who has solved the national problem. Raman's research did not solve the problem of India. It was a group of a Green Revolution led by Swaminathan and many others contributed. Therefore, solving problems require team effort largely. But creativity is individual. And you need to have individual excellence as well as institutional excellence. And let us ask on this day, the Remembrance Day of K.S. Krishnan, that how do we address both requirements at one time? Beginning farewell to the end of the talk, hopefully an argument has been advanced from this work, the traditional musical instrument like Mridangam, made up of very ordinary and locally available materials, and perhaps with knowledge never acquired in any college or institution, any university, elicit musical outcome unmatched by many devices in the world through the genius of an ancient society. And that is what India is. And that's what we are all benefit of. It is the heritage of this ancient society that we are beneficiary of. And let us not undermine the value of that work. And science, for making Mridangam, relies on cross-disciplinary research and not analysis alone, synthesis of knowledge. I think we are very good in analysis as a scientist and always synthesize. From ministry, the work of K.S. Krishnan inspired cross-disciplinary work in a CSIR laboratory and seeded a cultural integration of music and science. And that's a CSIR work. KSK has been inspirational role model for work without desires in seeking a new knowledge for its own beauty. The man did not look for Nobel Prize. Okay? And it turns out that one of the young people have presented all the awards won by K.S. Krishnan. Okay? The number of awards that he deserved, many times larger than what he got. Okay? That when you go back and read, he got the Bhatnagar Prize, first Bhatnagar Prize. It's not the prize which got a value. It was the prize which got a value that K.S. Krishnan got it. K.S. Krishnan did not get any value from Bhatnagar Prize. K.S. Krishnan received the prize, and therefore people like Ramaswamy think Bhatnagar Prize is great, because K.S. Krishnan got it before. And Bhatnagar Prize did not add any value whatsoever to K.S. Krishnan. It added value to Ramaswamy, but not K.S. Krishnan. Prize got a value because K.S. Krishnan received it. Therefore, there's so many awards that K.S. Krishnan may not have got, not because he didn't get them, because they were not, the prizes missed the master. The prizes in this country missed the master. That's all. But I think he did it, knowledge for its own beauty. In the spirit of the scientific inquiry, we leave with an open, unanswered question. Is there a strong connect between musicality of drums and human emotions with potential value for therapeutic applications in redressing neuroplasticity among the stroke-afflicted people? I believe there is. And I'm convinced there is. Not a question I believe, I'm convinced there is. Okay? And there are reasons for this process. It's Indians created so many percussion instruments. Some are creating emotions. They call it Murasam. They call it Mridangam. One is to announce. One is to create excitement. Others to create enlightenment. Therefore, it is in the ancient history of this country reveals so many things. How do we connect drums to human emotions? It's not just a tiny device. The question, how do we rake the cognitive neuroscience of these systems to therapeutic applications? And I read this question, and I hope somebody will take it from here and take it to the next stage. In the world of system-driven research, I call it the today modern world, you are assessed by your H index. You're assessed by number of citations. Your body mass index is easily measured. Spirit is never measured. Life is never measured. So the system-driven science is for how many papers you publish, your citations, what H index you have, how many patents you wrote, all that is fine. But work and working methods are K.S. Krishnan remain inspiration for the cultural integration of knowledge for its own beauty. And thank you for the opportunity to pay my homage to a role model on his death anniversary in his temple. I do not call it NPL his place of work. NPL was his temple. Therefore, it is my homage to my role model in my younger days in his temple to pay homage to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I request our dignitaries to kindly come up on the dais for the further event. I would also like to thank you, sir, for very fascinatingly telling us about the cultural integration of science and music that led to the making of the musical excellence of Mridangam. I also thank you, sir, for beautifully sharing the life and unmatchable contribution of Dr. K.S. Krishnan that makes him a role model not only for the past generations, but generations to follow. Thank you, sir, for highlighting through his life how important it is to acquire the quality of being a humble and a good human being. And also for reminding us as an NPL family how we need to carry his virtues ahead. Thank you so much, sir. This time, I would like to request our Director NPL to felicitate our Honorable Chief Guest by presenting a shawl as an expression of our gratitude. I request our gathering to please give a huge round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. Now we have come to the most awaited part of today's event. Any guesses? That is the prize distribution. It is time to acknowledge the star performers of two competitions. The first was the quiz competition that was held on 13th May, and the second was poster making competition. Before we begin the prize distribution, I would like to tell our lovely gathering about some highlights of the competition. First, we would distribute the prizes for quiz competition. So this quiz competition was held on 13th May, and total 10 schools participated in the competition, and there were 57 students. 3 students were clubbed together as a team. Initially, there were 2 qualifying rounds. First round, the students were given individual question papers, and in the second qualifying round, each team was provided with a questionnaire. After the aggregation of both rounds, 6 teams were qualified to participate in the final quiz competition. The final quiz competition had 2 rounds. First round was the buzzer round, and the second round was the rapid fire round. The 10 schools that participated in the quiz competition were KB Arjangarh, KB Dwarka Sector 5, KB Dwarka Sector 12, KB Vikaspuri, KB Vikaspuri Shift 2, KB Rohini Sector 3, KB Tagore Garden, KB Dr. Rajendra Prasad, KB number 3 Delhi Camp, and Bal Bharati Public School GRH Mart. The 6 qualifying teams that were selected were 2 teams from KB Dwarka Sector 5, 2 teams from KV Dwarka Sector 12, 1 team from KV Arjangarh,
Receives a cash prize of 12,000 and a certificate. The cash prize has been transferred in favor of school account and is under the process and will soon be received. Can we all give a huge round of applause to KV Arjangarh, New Delhi? Receives a cash prize of 10,000 rupees and the certificates. The cash prize has been transferred in favor of school account and is under the process and will soon be received. Many congratulations to KV Sector 5 Dwarka. Has been NPL is truly blessed to have such devoted and equipped students and scholars who selflessly work as helping hands to our dear scientists behind the scene to make the event a success.
VLC का वॉल्यूम म्यूट कर दो VLC
Thank you team for motivating and invigilating. Many congratulations. I know it would have. They get certificates and a memento. Congratulations team. Where the names of the students were hidden and then the committee had scrutinized the posters.
तो इसमें हुआ है डॉक्टर विश्वकर्मा की उसमें ये वाली टीम
किसके उसमें
इनकी देखने में हुआ है सब ये वाली कमेटी नहीं वो इन वाली टीम में
किनकी देख रहे हो
डॉक्टर विश्वकर्मा ये वाली टीम का अलग अलग कर दिए तुमने
Thank you team. Dr. K.S. Krishnan. Congratulations, Kushan. CSIR NPL. States at CSIR NPL and tenure of Dr. K.S. Krishnan 1947 to 1961. Lokesh Yadav 61. I call upon Ashish Bhai. Also would like to call on Manish Mani, Prince, Ankush, Kapil, Navneet.
Awards, it is very important to appreciate and acknowledge the resource person who encouraged our dear scholars and provided the essential help during the poster making competition. I would like to call on the team of resource persons who have worked tirelessly behind the scene, encouraging, motivating, and guiding the participants during the poster making competition. I request Abdul Wahid, Majid, Pukraj, and Rashmi to kindly come up on stage and collect their certificates of appreciation. They are the resource person for the poster making competition. Let us all put our hands together for the team. Thank you, team, for motivating and invigilating the scholars during the poster making competition. So finally, the wait is over. To dispel the apprehensions of our young scholars, we have been toying with anxiously for the results. So I have with me the results for the poster making competition. Starting with the third prize, because it's all a surprise to you all. So third prize goes to the poster Works of Learned Personalities and Dignitaries about Dr. K.S. Krishnan. The poster was fabricated by Lokesh Yadav, Charanjit Singh, Elizabeth Jessa James, and Manisha. Third prize for poster making competition. The posters are beautifully placed in the scholars gallery. You all can go and witness them. So they get certificates and a memento. Many congratulations. I know it would have been a tough time holding back to your seat throughout the event just for this anticipated moment. So going ahead, I pronounce the second position. The second prize for the poster making competition goes to Life Journey of Dr. K.S. Krishnan. That was fabricated by Chitra, Amit Soni, and Mohammad Asif. Second prize to the life journey of Dr. K.S. Krishnan. They get certificates and a memento. Congratulations, team. As the heartbeats raise, raising the curiosity of our scholars, I finally declare the first position and the first prize for the poster making competition goes to contribution of Dr. K.S. Krishnan towards science that has been fabricated by Amit Kumar Chaudhary, Archana, Saurabh Kumar Seni, Kapil Kumar, Deepa Yadav, and Vijender. I request the team to kindly come forward. I would again like to tell it was a blind review where the names of the students were hidden and then the committee had scrutinized the posters. Thank you, team. We would also like to acknowledge the participants of the poster making competition by giving them certificates. I request the participants to kindly come up and announce your name. First and primarily, there is special consolation and a special appreciation for Kushal Verma. He is a student of class 8 from Kendriya Vidyalaya Rohini. He had very beautifully made the portrait of Dr. K.S. Krishnan. This brimming talent of just class 8 very beautifully painted, very beautifully sketched the portrait of Dr. K.S. Krishnan. Congratulations, Kushal. Thank you. Now we have the other consolation prizes. I call on Rashi for the poster Dr. K.S. Krishnan, a versatile performer in the theatre of life. Followed by Rashi, who drew another poster that is the K.S. Krishnan journey of CSIR NPL. She made two posters. Then the next consolation is Manisha Balkantia and Manisha Khatak for Dr. K.S. Krishnan Awards and Honors. I request Lokesh Yadav to also come forward for making the poster Foreign Delegates at CSIR NPL and tenure of Dr. K.S. Krishnan 1947 to 1961. Lokesh Yadav, who designed the poster Foreign Delegates at CSIR NPL and tenure of Dr. K.S. Krishnan 1947 to 1961. I call upon Ashish Bhatt and Saroj Sharma for designing the poster Dr. K.S. Krishnan's perception of the sampling theorem. Followed by her, I also would like to call on Manish Mani, Prince, Ankush, Kapil, Navneet, and Abhilasha for designing the poster A Few Results on Raman Spectroscopy from CSIR NPL. All these 10 posters are placed in the Scholars Gallery, K.S. Krishnan Scholars Gallery. After the event, you all can go and witness it. They are very beautifully fabricated and designed. Thank you so much. I thank our dignitaries for doing the honors. Thank you so much, sir. Please be seated. I request the gathering to give a huge round of applause to all the participants of quiz competition and poster making. As we have come to the end of the program, the other participants of the school who had participated in the quiz competition can collect the certificates after the program from the backstage. So as we have come to the end of the program, now I call upon Dr. S.N. Sharma to propose a vote of thanks.
To all. First of all, we would like to render heartfelt thanks to our esteemed chief guest, Professor T. Ramaswamy, former DST Secretary and Chairman, K.S. Krishnan Memorial Trust, for his illuminating talk on K.S. Krishnan as an inspirational role model, which was dedicated to the immortal soul and ever-living spirit of Dr. K.S. Krishnan. Thank you, sir. For the success of this 36th Krishnan Memorial Lecture, the credit goes to our respected, esteemed director, Professor Venugopal Achanta, for his enthusiasm and kind support. Thank you, sir. Thanks to our online and offline audiences comprising of various dignitaries for their active participation and support. The overwhelming response of the principals, teachers, and students from different schools is a highly cherished and a memorable experience. Big thanks to our research scholars who carried out their duties for making posters and who actively participated in the inauguration of Krishnan Memorial Scholars Gallery with great zeal and passion, and I acknowledge their untiring efforts. We are grateful to the team members of KRC, IT Auditorium, AC section, Electrical Works and Services section, Canteen, Guest House, Admin, Purchase and Accounts Department. We are also thankful to our organizing committee members, Dr. Ritu Srivastava, Dr. Mahesh Kumar, Dr. Bipin Kumar Gupta, Dr. Asad Patra, Dr. C.K. Suman, Dr. Rajiv Kumar Singh, Dr. Neeraj Chaudhary, Dr. Abhishek Sharma, and Mr. Abhishek Yadav, and all the 28 students as resource persons and anybody who has helped us directly or indirectly to make this event highly successful and a cherished one. Last but not the least, the untiring efforts of Dr. Sharon Jyotika Paul as an anchor is highly appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Before we close this event, I request you all to join your hands and give a huge round of applause for yourself for being such a lovely gathering. And I once again thank you all for gracing this occasion through your presence and making it a memorable one. We have some arrangements of high tea and refreshments. I request you all to kindly proceed towards the auditorium now. Once again, a very good evening and thank you all.